gonna shove it.
Yeah!
He's gonna shove it.
Oh man! Shove it!
It's been a long time since I've done a top 10 on the Shove It show. The reason for that is that I think most of them have been done to death by the so-called big wrestling channels. I don't like to recycle content, but I've got this suggestion from the Yellowbone on Instagram, and I thought it was a good one because it's not been done before. So here is the top 10 greatest in-ring promos in TNA history. And no Steiner math, because the focus is on in-ring. Got it? Good. Now shut up or I'll smack you one with this video. Number 10, Christian vs Booker T, promo from Impact on the 23rd of October 2008. Booker had recently debuted his new character, the King of Africa, in TNA. Unfortunately, he did not tell us what African country he was even talking about. He was fairly normal when he debuted in TNA, but out of nowhere he started using a fake over-the-top African accent.
I said to all of you, I introduce you all to Booker, the TNA Legends Champion.
This also led to him bringing in his vanity belt, the Legends title, one of the most beautiful belts of all time, and I mean it. His boasting led to Christian Cage coming out to give his 2 cents. Christian often cut hilarious promos in TNA, but this is one of my favourite. Christian says a legend isn't someone who comes out to the ring looking like a Little John impersonator with a ridiculous accent. If that goes over anybody's head, Lil Jon was basically a thing in the early 2000s. He was in the rap game. His music was called crunk and it was more screaming and shouting than rapping.
Sitting in. What? We at capacity. What? Over here, yeah!
He had his place in time. In fact, I'm sure a little hawk had him on his Walkman. Anyway, back to the promo. Christian's comparing Booker T to Lil Jon got a great cheer from the crowd, as Lil Jon was a lot more relevant in 2008. Christian started questioning Booker's credentials and continued asking why he created a belt for himself. Booker said, "Can I ask a question?" and Christian reacted by saying, "You can ask me a question, Little John," and then screamed "yeah," which is another one of Lil Jon's trademarks, although a lot more enthusiastically than I just said it. Sharmell and Booker's facial expressions sold this beautifully. Booker says he's serious and Christian continues doing Little John impressions. The crowd were going ballistic at this point.
Can I ask you a question, Christian? Can I do that?
Can you ask me a question, Little John? Yeah!
I'm serious.
You're serious? Okay!
Christian!
What?
Booker told Christian in his country, Africa, Christian is a legend and he should join the main event Mafia. Christian wasn't interested and he challenged Booker to fight him for the Legends title because it would really piss him off. Christian finished by saying, "In my country, Booker, we call that a challenge." Booker agreed to the match as long as Christian joined the main event Mafia if he lost. This promo might not make a top 10 if you don't know who Lil Jon is, but if you do, you'll see how completely on point Christian's impression is here. It's completely random and it was unexpected.
And in my country, Booga, we call that a challenge.
Sting vs Hogan Perk Pop. This one takes place on the 30th of June 2011, and this one's just crazy. The Hulkster and his Immortal faction are annoying the TNA audience, and everyone wishes they would just go away. Seemingly, the only person that could damage Immortal was the Stinger, Steve Borden. He had recently gone for a big character change where he was now acting like the Joker. He was doing all this insanity to bring back the old Hulk Hogan. This would all lead to them having a match in the end, but this promo is leading up to that match. Sting starts out by beating up Immortal members backstage. He smashes Bully Ray's chair into his face with his bat and he screams, "Yeah, home run." The camera cuts back to Hogan in the ring to show a mixture of fear and confusion on his face. The lights go out and Sting smacks Hogan with his big black bat. Sting says Mr. Anderson looks nervous, who was also in the ring, and thanks him for leaving the ring, as he needs some bonding time with the Hulkster. He keeps talking in between bat shots to Hogan. He seems so happy and crazy.
Kenny, you look a little nervous. Well, I need this bonding time with Hulk. Hold on 1 second. Man, I'm trying to get through to you, Hulk.
Hogan is now in a ball in the corner panting and wheezing while Sting carries on cutting his promo. Hulk's now screaming, "You've broken my damn ribs."
Red and yellow kill a fella, right, Hulk?
You broke my damn ribs!
Sting asks the real Hulk to stand up. He says train hard every day, say your prayers and eat your vitamins. Hogan's now yelling, "You're out of your damn mind."
You're obviously working out. There's still 21-inch pythons right there.
You're out of your damn mind! You crossed the line!
Sting brings out a big pot of pills and he sits down on the floor hugging the Hulkster. Sting starts feeding them both pills. He gets some water from a cameraman and tips it all over the Hulkster's face. Then he dumps the pill pot on Hogan. Sting puts him in the Scorpion Deathlock to end the promo, but he's saved by the rest of his Immortal goons. Quite a short promo, but incredibly memorable and a real point of praise for the Stinger, who was putting all his energy into this Joker gimmick, whether you liked it or not.
Bonding time with the Hulkster. Hey, let's do some vitamins now, okay? Come here. No, come on. You can do it.
Broken.
Here you go.
Number 8, the Steiner vs. the Dudleys, Impact 26th July 2007. This one's all happening because the Dudleys and the Steiners were set to clash on pay-per-view, but Steiner suffered a freak injury whilst wrestling in Puerto Rico, so he was unable to make the pay-per-view. The Dudleys are heels here and they're mocking Steiner for missing the show due to Scott only having a little injury. This is despite Scott almost dying from that injury. Feuds and promos are always better when they touch on real life situations, and this one certainly does. Scotty starts out by immediately complaining that the Dudleys aren't allowed to call the Steiners out because they're fat. Scotty went on to praise the Puerto Ricans for saving his life, which gets a huge crowd ovation. Bubba laughs at him and calls Rick Steiner his half-retarded brother.
And let your thyroid continue to spiral out of control, and maybe you'll gain a few more fat cells. Look who it is! Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, and his half-retarded brother Rick.
Scotty makes some more fat jokes, which the crowd love. Scott continues to describe his life-threatening injury where he was kicked in the throat. Bubba Ray doesn't believe anything that Steiner's saying and says he didn't show up because the Dudleys are better than the Steiners. Bubba says Steiner doesn't look like he had any throat surgery and calls him a liar again. Rick undresses his brother to show a large scar on his right lat. He tells Bubba his thyroid has now burst. Bubba calls that a little scratch and says back in ECW that would be a paper cut. Steiner starts getting angry now and he says the Dudleys were only Bingo Hall champions, but the Steiners were WCW champions.
We're nothing but Bingo Hall champions! We were World Tag Team Champions for a real company, WCW!
The promo goes downhill now because Mold Dog and Billy Gunn come out to say that they are the best tag team in wrestling history. Mold Dog takes responsibility for the wrestling boom during the Attitude Era. Steiner agrees that he was on top in the WWF, but he was on top of a heap of crap whilst he spits in the dog's face.
You might have been on top in the WWF, but on top of what? A heap of crap!
Steiner talks about the 83-week winning streak for WCW and he goes back to the Dudleys saying, "You two fatso shouldn't even be in the ring." Bubba screams, "Stop calling me fat." The crowd end the promo chanting "Fat Boy" and then it all breaks down between all three teams. An excellent fun promo, classic Scott Steiner and some real nice heel work from Bubba Ray, and not a single stumble from Steiner's promo, which you don't always get with Scotty. Number 7, the Pope D'Angelo De Niro, Impact 29th of March 2010. This is a strange time in TNA. I may have talked about it plenty of times before, but here we go. We're right in the Monday Night War era, but strangely the Pope is being pushed as the main eventer of the company. Not the Nasty Boys, not Scott Hall, not Six Pack, not Orlando Jordan, the Pope. An actual wrestler with superstar potential in 2010. Now, there was a lot of fighting going on with the writers behind the scenes at this time. Russo wanted to make the Pope a world champion, but Hogan eventually vetoed the idea. Sadly, the Pope would have a pretty quick demise in TNA after this, but for a brief period in 2010, he was one of the hottest things in wrestling. The Pope is dressed like a star and he's out to hype his world title match against AJ Styles at the pay-per-view. Pope says he's waited for this moment his entire wrestling career, but AJ Styles and the Nature Boy are trying to jeopardise that. Actually, he was a boy 50 years ago, it's time to grow up, he says. He calls AJ Styles a shadow in the streetlights and Pope is the guiding light of TNA and daybreak is soon coming. The promo turns into what you might expect to see at a church congregation, with Pope asking for amens from the crowd at the end of his sentences. Pope tells AJ that at the pay-per-view he should walk into a shop in Florida and buy a spacesuit because Pope will be taking him to his outer limits.
Pimptacular! Hand clapping, foot tapping, pimp slapping, bleeding attire, always on fire, D'Angelo De Niro!
The crowd go berserk and start a chant of Pope is pimping. You know a guy's popular when the crowd organically start their own chant for them. The crowd finishes promo offering by saying the Pope is pimping. He seems like he's about to leave, but then Desmond Wolfe's manager Chelsea is here. She isn't exactly a main character on the TNA show. Pope checks her out and says he likes what he sees. She tells Pope she wants to be a hoe for him. He asks if she knows how to drive a stick. She says she's not sure, but she's a quick learner as she grabs his nutsack. What am I even narrating here? After this one, the Hawk's gonna have to do a narration of erotic novels. One fine day, a man named Sonny and Don't Look at My Ass Siaki and a lady called Goldilocks were going on a hot date to Nando's. Goldilocks remarked, "I knew you didn't want anyone to look, but I did, and all I can think about now is the ace in the hole." The two young lovebirds then called a cab, and up it pulled. It was David Young. As Siaki and Goldilocks entered the cab, David Young asked, "Where to?" And Goldilocks said, Right here, right now! And they shared a three-way kiss. Unfortunately, young stank of piss. Sorry, I'm getting distracted again. Chelsea asks Pope if it's a gun in his pocket or if he's just happy to see her. Desmond Wolfe tries a sneak attack, but Pope is his calm, charismatic self and tells her to hold his stick, and then he turns around and smacks Wolfe one. Pope turns back around to plant a kiss on her, and then he gives her some money. That's how you cut a promo as a star. Number 5, New Year's Eve Impact 2005 Christian Cage. This one makes the list for two reasons. The most obvious one, first of all, is still sort of the festive season, so it's only appropriate to include this. We'll come on to the second reason in two shakes of a hawk's beak. Cage has recently debuted in TNA, and in the festive promo, Cage is in the ring with Santa Claus and his helper Tracy Brooks. Christian says he needs to look more like a heavyweight champion as he'll be going for the belt soon. Santa digs into his sack to give Christian a present, which he opens enthusiastically. It's a pair of ugly white jeans that looks like a certain somebody wears. Christian said, "Where did you get these from, 1985? He struggles to put them on, but eventually pulls them up to his shoulders. The crowd are going nuts for Christian already.
White pants just like Jeff Jarrett wears. Where did you find these, 1985?
Cage says he now needs a catchy saying to connect with his audience. He puts on a t-shirt and an old lady's wig and glasses. A wild slapnuts appears.
Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
Christian says, "Don't piss me off." That'll sell a lot, yeah, sure.
Don't piss me off. Wow, that's money.
Double C?
The crowd chant double C. Christian now says that all he's lacking is talent. Please can he have one more present to help? The crowd are now chanting stuff her stocking at Tracy Brooks. Santa hands Christian a ukulele. Christian does a few more famous slapnuts poses before he's interrupted by the real slapnuts and his errand boy. Just to clear one thing up, I don't hate Jeff Jarrett, I think he's fun to laugh at. This promo was excellent because it captured the feelings of most of the TNA audience in the middle of the Jeff Jarrett reign of terror. Number 5, this is my personal favourite TNA in-ring promo, but that doesn't mean it's the best. It's from Impact on the 11th of June 2008. The main Event Mafia faction is dominating in TNA, and Kurt Angle introduces Scott Steiner as the newest member of the group. Steiner's been out of TNA for a while, and he fits into this group and only made it better. I've spoke about this promo so many times on the channel, but I'll give you the abridged version. Steiner is here to talk about the TNA originals. He calls them disrespectful punks who have pissed Steiner off. Scotty goes on to point out that the Mafia is the greatest assembly of world champions to ever come together through respect. He says the punks in the back wrestle their matches and then go and play video games, which he sounds completely horrified about. Then they also go on to marked wrestling sites to see what star their match got. Why do you care what these geeks think? Ask us what we think and we'll tell you that you suck. He carries on to completely bury the originals under the bus, saying he's never heard of any of them before TNA, and they're only here because no one else wants them. He tells AJ to go home with a billboard on his back and walk down the high street and no one will know who he is. Joe could go back to Samoa and people will think he's a fat-ass half-breed. This whole time Booker is almost falling over from laughing, Kevin is openly chuckling and Kurt is in complete shock of what he's hearing. Scott calls them curtain jerkers, which brings out the TNA Frontline originals. They look like the biggest collection of nerds ever assembled and they stand no chance. Joe tries his best to recover by saying that none of them could even understand what Steiner was saying. He tries to bring Christian Cage out to join the group, but Christian says he doesn't want to be a part of it. I guess because they aren't good enough. I never said this promo was good other than any other reason than it being a complete car crash, but it's a car crash I can watch time and time again.
Go online and play video games. You go online to these marked wrestling sites to see if you got a 4-star match, a 5-star match. What do you care what these geeks think? Ask us what we think, and we'll tell you that you suck. AJ Styles, you could go back to your redneck state, Georgia, strap a billboard on your back, walk down Main Street, and nobody would know who you are. Samoa Joe, you can fly back to the Isles of Samoa, and the only question they'll ask is, who's the fat, who's the half-breed? It's a new day here in TNA, and we are here to kick your ass. But we are going to kick your ass, and we're going to look good doing it.
Number 4, TNA Turning Point 2007, Samoa Joe shoots. The backstory here is TNA booked a pay-per-view match pitting Joe, Hall and Nash against Angle, Tonko and Styles. TNA knew it was a risk booking Scott Hall for matches, but he'd recently given them their highest viewership in his returning segment. Hall no-showed this pay-per-view and Joe was told to go out to the ring to cut a shoot promo about it. That's despite Hall's best friend Nash being his tag partner and looking more and more annoyed as it went along. Joe was already flipping out at Nash backstage before the in-ring stuff started. Nash says he's just more concerned about the health of his friend. Joe picks the mic up and starts venting straight away. He says that Scott Hall has no-showed the pay-per-view as the Angle Alliance pissed themselves with happiness. Joe says that Hall has punked out on everybody tonight. He says in TNA there's two kind of wrestlers. Ones who bust their ass every night for the fans, and then we have superstars who screw the hard-working wrestlers, as he looks at Nash. Kevin Nash looks like he's falling asleep as Joe continues explaining what makes a TNA wrestler. He calls Scott Hall Chico and tells him to kiss his ass and tells him he's a punk.
So I'll tell you what, Scott Hall, Chico, kiss my ass. You punked out and you're a punk.
Are you mad? No, go ahead, fire me. I don't care.
Eventually, Joe announces his replacement teammate will be Eric Young. Everyone looks a mixture of confused and annoyed. Kevin looks pissed off the whole time, in fact. The story goes that after this match, Kevin Nash smacked Joe twice for this promo, but others said that he didn't. All I know is it was a great watch. Number 3, Flair and Foley from Impact the 30th of September 2010. There's a big brawl going on, but Foley only wants to speak to Flair. He summons him into the ring. Flair starts out asking Foley if he asks to speak to Ric Flair, the wrestling god. Then he asks him if we're on air, which Foley confirms that we are. Foley asks to speak to the real Ric Flair, so he spins around and says, "Here he is, asshole." Foley and Flair will be having a match soon, and Mick is trying to hype up a match that will end 21 years of differences. Flair drops the mic and leaves the ring. He snatches a book from a large yellow woman in a dress. I mean, the dress was yellow. This is Mick Foley's book. Flair starts getting angry, he takes off his jacket. He's getting mad at Foley for having the temerity to ask for a match. Flair stomps and elbow drops and knees the book and says the answer is yes.
You, the best-selling author, Father of the Year, Couch Potato, wanna wrestle Ric Flair? The answer is yes, you son of a bitch!
Mick admits he hasn't shown himself to be a good wrestler for a long time, but Flair has made him feel a burning desire he hasn't felt in years. Flair starts screaming that he makes everybody better around him as he beats himself in the head until he's busted open. No idea why he did this. Foley starts punching himself in the face till he also bleeds. This is madness. They're both screaming that they're going to kill each other. Flair has gone so red he looks like a Christmas tree decoration. Flair says that Dreamer told him that he's hardcore and swears at Foley.
I'm gonna have my whole family, just like last time in Orlando, sold out at my retirement. I'll have my whole family there, not for my retirement, to see the end of you.
Then they start aggressively praising each other. Flair is loudly panting on the mic. It all leads to Foley asking for a last man standing match. Flair says if he loses the match, he'll kiss Foley's ass live on TV. Flair starts yelling woo at the crowd and gestures at them, and then he just suddenly runs off whilst Mick is talking. An amazing promo where I thought Flair was going to suffer a heart attack in the middle of the promo. That wouldn't have been amazing. Number 2, Robert Roode vs Hulk Hogan from the Impact 5th of May 2011. A lot of my picks on this list have been for sheer entertainment, but this one is not just entertaining, but it's also achieved something. The Immortal faction, which is Hogan's faction, are hogging the ring as usual before Fortune rushed the ring. Fortune is essentially the TNA frontline but done right, and they clear the ring. Roode has a mic and he's screaming, "Hogan, you coward." He calls him a son of a bitch as Hogan looks shocked. This one has elements of a shoot promo to it.
Hey, Hogan, you coward! Hogan, you coward! Hey, you coward! Turn around and listen to me! You son of a bitch! Me and my buddies here built this company from scratch. Or how you and Bischoff and Flair cashed in on our blood, sweat, and tears over the last 18 months. I'm not going to talk about that either.
Roode says he has pride, which Hogan does not. He says he busts his ass every night in the ring and he feels pleasure putting food in his kids' mouths. He says he's earned every penny, but Hogan has earned nothing in TNA. He says Hogan has raped and stolen from TNA and he's ruined lives.
That they earn their keep. That they earn a paycheck. What the hell have you earned, Hulk Hogan?
Who the hell do you think you are?
He then brings up the fact that last week Jay Lethal was fired, despite doing everything Hogan told him to do in TNA. Roode introduces himself to Hogan as if he doesn't know who he is and says he's going to stand up to Hogan and everything is about to change.
My name is Bobby Roode. And I am the man who's going to stand up to you, you selfish son of a bitch.
It wasn't often that someone got the better of Hogan in a promo, which was great to see, and it would be only 6 months later when Roode won his first world title and became a mainstay in the main event. This promo marks the rise of Bobby Roode. And the best TNA in-ring promo of all time is unfortunately the most obvious. If I didn't include this one, people would be smashing that unsubscribe button faster than I could smash a brick. It's the Jay Lethal Ric Flair woo-off. This one kind of comes in two parts, because for months Lethal has been impersonating wrestlers and he had a very similar promo of Flair before the famous one, but it didn't get quite as heated. They were basically feuding because Hogan gave Lethal Flair's Hall of Fame ring. So this one comes from an episode of Impact the 17th of June 2010. We start off with Flair and his Fortune faction in the ring. He's giving his guys a dressing down. Flair calls Lethal a pissant from New Jersey, which brings him to the top of the ramp. Okay, so this one isn't strictly an in-ring promo, but shove it, it's still live in front of the crowd. Lethal starts doing a great Flair impression talking about the Four Horsemen.
It looks like the Horsemen were here, they took a dump in the ring, and they left that.
Flair retaliates and starts flipping out, throwing his clothes around the ring. There's super fast camera cuts here, which seems to make it even more entertaining. Lethal retaliates by doing an elbow drop on his jacket. Flair starts cutting him off by saying woo and saying he can kiss any woman here, even the fat one in the front row. Flair tries to throw his shoe at Lethal now. Then the woo-off starts as both men are going nuts screaming woo at each other, and the cameras are cutting like Vince Russo about his Ritalin. You can vaguely hear the commentators laughing the whole time. The promo is almost ruined by Desmond Wolfe interrupting the promo saying listen here Tinkerbell and calling Lethal ghetto booty and challenging him to a match. Lethal says he slept with Wolfe's manager for 60 minutes, which makes Flair flip out. Flair and Lethal go on to agree to have a match, which goes on to be probably Flair's best TNA match. Lethal would leave TNA over a year after this and would never return. Well, for once I don't feel like smashing my computer into a brick. That was actually the most fun I've had in an evening in a long time. And if this video didn't make you grin, I'll reconstruct your chin.